I am so happy to be back tonight with another chapter from the book Ask and It Is Given. I hope that you're enjoying the discussion we are having so far. And today we are on chapter 12, which is entitled Your Emotional Set Points Are Within Your Control. The whole premise of this chapter is that a lot of times people feel that they have no control over the life that they're living. And what Abraham is trying to teach us here is that we have complete control. I'll read something that I thought was really, really impactful. So, what Abraham says is, people observe things happening around them and evaluate them, but they usually feel that they have no control. So people generally respond to what's going on around them from a point of view of not creation, not that when you look at something going wrong or you look at something right, you should be able to say, I created that. I did that. But instead, most people don't look at things that way. Most people look at things that happen and assign the control for it to someone else. It's either this person's fault or it's God doesn't want me to have what I want for whatever reason. But that's not true. God wants us to have everything that we ask for. Source, that which we call universe, wants us to have everything that we ask for. But we have to start responding differently. We have to start responding, not responding, but preempting. Right? So there's a difference. There's a difference in something happening and then you have an emotional response to it, or you control your emotion wherever you go. You lay your emotional foundation. And that's such a different way of looking at things, because what that means is, doesn't matter what's happening around me, I will observe it, but I will not let it control my emotional response. I will control my emotional response. Right? And there are so many things, and especially that is one of the reasons why we don't like the news. We don't like the news because the news is always bringing us things that are going wrong in the world, whereas, and that makes us feel bad, right? So the reason we don't want to we don't enjoy listening to the news is because it's mostly bad news, right? It doesn't make you feel good. So all of that, listening to the news, is about our reaction to what we are observing. Now, having said that, we could, if we got to that level of being able to use law of attraction, we could listen to the news without losing our balance. We could stay emotionally steady. So if there's talk about something going wrong in some part of the world, if we could stay steady in our emotion and not react, then we would not contribute to the problem, first of all. And number two, we would keep living our lives from a good feeling place, which means we would attract better outcomes for ourselves. So I remember that in just this one past year, there have been so many things that I've seen people react to extremely strongly and negatively. But that's not helpful. It's not helpful to the issue that you're observing, and it's not helpful to you either. It's not helpful to the issue that you're observing, because when you focus on something going wrong in the world and you point your attention on it, you've added your energy to the problem side of the equation. What we want to do in order to help the world, in order to be helpful towards other people in the world, is to point our energy towards the solution rather than the problem. And this chapter is predominantly about how do we do that? How do we point our attention to the solution rather than the problem? Okay, so then Abraham says it is people spend their lives sorting things into categories of black and white. It has to be this way and then it's right, and if it's this way then it's not right, right? And what I've learned from Abraham is that there's no such thing as a absolute categoric right or wrong. Law of attraction is not about the right thing happening for the right person. Law of attraction is about wanting to have the right things happen to everyone, but it's fair. And so if you follow the rules of the game, you get what you want. If you don't follow the rules of the game, you don't have what you want. It's as simple as that. And so here we are to learn the rules of the game. How does the system that this world is constructed on work? And how can we use it so that we live lives that are happy and fulfilled? So then Abraham says it is impossible to control conditions that others have created. And so whenever we see something happen and we assign the responsibility for it to someone else, we have to really stop doing that, because we cannot change that, and it's impossible because you cannot change another person, and you do not know for sure what that other person's belief systems are. You cannot, nobody can, we cannot know what the other person's belief systems are, what are the things that they've gone through in their lives. We don't know any of that. So we can't assign blame, right? And then what happens is people gather together because there's this thing going on that says if we gather together in a group, then we will have more force. We'll be able to force a change. And that is never the way to bring any positive change about, because when we behave in that way, then we are actually getting a lot more people to focus their energy on the problem instead of focusing on the solution. So the thing is, why do we want to? So yes, you can achieve things with hard work, but why do we want to do the vibrational work? Well, because hard work, the action energy, the effort, that is a lot more work than doing the vibrational work. Doing vibrational work, changing your thoughts before you act, is a lot less effort than if you just go and act, fall into action right away, because then you're going to have to fight all these obstacles that are on your way, which are basically your negative beliefs. But if you do the vibrational work and you go up the emotional scale, well, high up on the emotional scale, there are very few negative beliefs. In fact, if you reach the topmost level of the emotional scale, and that's where you start living your life, you become truly unconditional, which means that nothing phases you. If something bad happens, you understand that whatever is happening has been caused by the way that person or that group of people is thinking. So you stop feeling sorry for people. Sure, you want good things to happen to other people, but really, you stop feeling sorry for other people because you start understanding that nobody did anything to them. They did everything that happened to them, and you also start understanding that no one is powerless. No one is powerless because all you have to do is to observe what is going on in your life, to start learning from your own experience that when you feel bad, bad things happen. When you feel good, good things happen. When you're cheerful and happy, you attract more good stuff. Everyone knows that intuitively. That is why we have sayings like, oh, look at things from the point of view of the glass half full rather than the glass half empty. We say that all the time. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows be positive. But what people don't know and don't understand is, what does it really mean to be positive? What is looking at things from the point of view of the glass half full? What does it mean to find the silver lining around the cloud, right? We know all of these things. They've been talked about for a very long time. But what does it really mean? Well, what it means is you kind of have to shift the gear. Just like when you start a car, first you're in first gear, then you go into the second gear, third, and then fourth. Well, you have to, asking is one gear. And then from asking, you have to shift the gear to receiving in order to receive what you've asked for. If you stay in the asking mode, then you just keep asking and it never comes, because you have to physically or emotionally at least move into the mode that allows things to come, the receiving mode. Okay, so one of the most important things that Abraham said here, that I at least have highlighted, is that the more you defend your own beliefs, the more the law of attraction helps you to live them out. Because whatever vibration you're on, if you're on a really low vibration on the emotional scale, so if I use this as a depiction of the emotional scale, and over here is worry, here is love, and despair is at the other end. If you spend most of your time here below the worry line, then you're just going to attract more things to worry about, to fuss and worry over. Because like vibration attracts like vibration, and the vibration that you spend most of your time on is going to affect all the subjects in your life, not just the subject that you're thinking about just now. Let's say you're thinking about money, but your money problems are going to affect your health, and they're also going to affect your relationships, and they're going to affect your self-worth. So a negative vibration affects all subjects in your life. And conversely, a positive vibration also affects all the subjects in your life. It works the same way on both sides of the stick. So nothing is true. There is no fixed truth in the universe, because we all make our own truths. If, let's say, we've been in this realm of the emotional scale, we've been on the negative end of the stick for a very long time, then things are happening in our life that are indicators that we are on the negative side of the stick. But we look at these negative things that happen and we say, that's my truth. And the more you look at this truth, now the more you attract other things that are exactly like it. And that's where life feels as if you're stuck and you're not making any movement forward. But you can't really make any movement forward if you keep doing the same things you were doing before. So you have to change something. So I'm going to read to you from here because I thought this was impactful. I should give my attention to such and such because it is true. That is the same thing as saying another gave their attention to something that they did not want, and by their attention to it, they have invited it into their experience. And since they have attracted something unwanted into their experience, I should do it also. This is big, guys. This is really important to understand. And what it is we see something happen to someone. Let's say they get sick. And then you start thinking, oh, it could happen to me. Or maybe someone is in an accident and you think, oh, I travel that way as well and I have that kind of car. Maybe it can happen to me. Well, just because it became somebody else's truth, it does not have to become your truth. And the reason is they have invited it in because of where they are on the emotional scale. So as long as you don't bring yourself down here on the emotional scale, you don't have anything to worry about. People often talk to me about feeling afraid. And if you're afraid, then you're over here. And then you're going to attract other things, not only in your life, but you will see evidence of things happening to other people that will prove your belief that life, the world is not a safe place. It will prove itself to you because you started that vibration and then it just became stronger and stronger and stronger. Okay? So what we want is to pay attention to our feelings, because the first time we focus negatively on something, it's probably very slight bit of negativity that we don't notice. It happens and then it's gone and we don't notice it. But as we start attracting more of the same, that vibration becomes a stronger vibration and it starts attracting more energy towards it. And when it attracts more energy towards it, you can at that point in time feel whether it is a good feeling vibration or a bad feeling vibration. And the thing that Abraham talks about is the 16 seconds to creation. So if you spend, now an average thought is only 4 seconds. So if you thought 4 thoughts which were similar in nature, now you've got 16 seconds, and 16 seconds or 4 thoughts of the same vibrational nature are enough to get momentum going. And by the time you get to 60 seconds or a minute and a half or 2 minutes, you have got enough momentum going that now it's attracting a manifestation towards you. So how do we do this? How do we stop manifestations that we don't want to come towards us? Well, soon as you start noticing, so you should start noticing after 16 seconds, you'll get this little feeling inside in the pit of your tummy, maybe over here. For some people, it's just a thought. It comes, that guidance, that communication from non-physical comes to us in many ways. And so all you have to do is notice that and say, oh, that doesn't feel right. That means I must be thinking thoughts that are not helpful to me. They are unnecessary. I've got to stop now and I've got to reach for a different feeling thought. Oh, what can I pick up and appreciate? Look at that. That's so pretty. I think I'm going to appreciate this. And then just move from this to something else, to something else, to something else. All things that you can appreciate. And that's how you shift your vibration. But if the momentum gets really, really strong, now it's like the brakes on a car are failing and you're on the highway at 100 miles an hour. You can't fix the brakes at that time. It's too late. Now all you can do is you have to, in that moment in time, you have to forget about doing the vibrational work and you have to go straight into action mode and stop triage the bleeding, right? So after an accident already takes place and somebody's cut themselves open, that's not the time to fix it. That's the time to give them the stitches and stop the bleeding. So you have to jump into action if a manifestation is already taking place. Vibrational work is always and always supposed to be done beforehand, not after you're there. And this happens so many times. People develop health situations and they come to me all the time with this health problem. And now they refuse to take medicine for it and they want to do vibrational work to fix it. And my answer is yes, you can do the vibrational work and it will definitely assist you. But you have already fallen out of the aircraft at 10,000 feet. You've got to use the parachute. And the parachute is whatever help is available right at that time. You can't jump out of an aircraft and then say, oh, suck me back in. It's not going to happen. And you can't expect that you are not going to land, that you'll just keep flying, right? So always, if a manifestation has already taken place, you have to do both things. You have to do the vibrational work and you have to jump into action and look after that situation. Make sense? All right. So let's move on. So that's how you use your feelings. I'm going to read a little bit to you again because this really struck a chord in me because it's so much like what I have heard and absorbed when I was a child. And here's what it is. You are bad. You should be ashamed of yourself. You have displeased me. You are inappropriate. I've heard those words many, many, many times over. Have you? See, that's where if we allow those words to affect us, we have a choice. We didn't have to allow those words to affect us. If I say something like that to my son, he laughs in my face, right? I can't get away with it. But when I was a kid, I used to take it to heart. It used to destroy me completely for many days, right? So I was a sponge and I absorbed that negative vibration and it created problems. So, but we have a choice. I didn't know that at that time. I didn't know that I had a choice. I didn't know that I didn't have to absorb this thing that someone else was saying to me, because whatever they were saying had to do with how they were feeling and had nothing to do with me. Okay? So these words feel awful because your attention to them has caused you to become vibrationally different from who you really are and what you really know. So in that moment, that is when that our connection with source becomes, there's resistance in it, because we're not fully connected, we're not fully flowing. And it does take work. In the beginning, when you start doing all of this law of attraction stuff, it does take work to change your habit, because our thinking habits are like an addiction. We get so used to them, but it's an addiction that we are not aware of, because nobody's taught us before that the manifestations that we are having, which are, show up as in our relationships, show up in our money situation, show up in our health, all of these manifestations that happen, nobody taught us that they were because of the way we were thinking our thoughts, and we were addicted to thinking our thoughts a certain way. So that's why you and I are gathered here, because now we realize that we do have power and we can change our thoughts. But you've got to put in the vibrational work to do that. And that means being on your toes. Being on your toes, so that when something slips out of your mind onto your tongue and out of your mouth, you catch it. Catch it. You can't catch it and bring it back, but you catch it and you say, uh-oh, I went there. That means now I have to generate positive momentum that counters that negative momentum that I just set forth. Okay, because you can't suck it back. You can't get sucked back into the aircraft. But what you can do is use a parachute and find a soft place to land. You don't have to land on the rocks. Okay. So then Abraham says, our moods are indicators of our emotional set point. And that reminds me, my mood, before I started doing all of this work, used to be impatient, irritated with everyone. You can't get this done, chop, chop, chop. And hard on myself, right? And you start noticing. So what I want you to do is, I want you to start noticing, pick a couple of people that you can observe without making them conscious. Don't stalk them. Just observe them gently from a distance. Maybe they're people that you work with. Maybe they're people that you live with. But you know them and you see their behavior often enough that you can see what's happening in their life. And then start noticing how they talk and the kind of life that they're living. I tell parents, right? Parents come to me for guidance on how to handle their children, and they say, I want my child to behave this way and my child is not behaving this way. What should I do? And I ask this parent, this wonderful, loving parent, do you want your child to have the kind of life you have? Do you have a perfect life? No. Then leave that child alone, because you don't really want to give them your belief systems. You want them to do better than you did. All right, that's a whole other webinar. Let's come back here. So our moods tell us where we are. Are you usually joyful? Do you usually wake up with a smile on your face? When somebody sees you, maybe a stranger passing by nods at you and smiles at you, what do? Do you frown back? Do you smile back? All these little things that we do during our day, they tell us where our vibrational set point. That's the term Abraham uses. What our vibrational set point is, and our vibrational set point is basically our mood. That's what and all it is where do you hang out on the emotional scale usually during your day? Do you hang out over here at the top of the emotional scale, always having fun, always having a big smile on your face? Or hang on, I need to stop there. So there are a lot of people who put a fake smile on their face. That's not what I'm talking about. Going around with a fake smile on your face, that does not cut it. A real smile, a smile that is connected to the happy feeling inside you. Because I know a lot of people who make a lot of jokes and help other people have a lot of fun. But when you look at their lives, a lot of times, unfortunately, their lives are a complete disaster. And so they might be putting a smile on their face, but it's not representative of their true emotional scale. So I don't just want you to put a smile on your face. I want you to feel that smile deep inside you. All right. Just looking at the clock and being conscious of my time commitment to you. All right. So your emotional set points can be changed. You can change your mood. Your mood is just, it's an addiction. You just get used to thinking thoughts a certain way, just like you get addicted to a substance and you have to have it every day. Well, when you wake up, you go into that gear that you are used to being in. But you can change your gear. It just takes a little bit of work. And this book, the reason we are going through this book is because this book is full of processes that we can do in order to change our habit of thought. And the reason I use the word process is because I want to differentiate it from a ritual, because a ritual focuses on the act rather than the vibration, and a process does not focus on the action. It focuses on the thinking that's going on in your head. Okay, so moving on. Your emotional set points can be changed. And before that, Abraham gave some really powerful examples of how we develop negative vibration. And so I'm going to read this little portion to you because it is so impactful. Often in response to your request for something, you were told that money doesn't grow on trees and that just because you want it doesn't mean you'll get it, and that you, like everyone else in this family, should learn to do without it. That's just the way life is. Did you hear that when you were a kid? I heard that a lot. Or when you were a child, maybe your friend's mother was killed in an automobile accident, and then your close association with someone who was experiencing such severe childhood trauma made you fearful for the well-being of your own parents. Whenever they traveled somewhere by automobile, you would be gripped by fear until they return. And there are so many children who have that separation anxiety from their parents, right? And then it shows up in other ways in their lives later on. Or when you were a teenager, perhaps your grandmother suddenly died of a heart attack, and in the years that followed her death, you often heard your mother expressing her concern about the high probability of the same thing happening to her and her children, including you. Nearly every time any conversation about your grandmother came up, her untimely heart attack became an emotional and fear-producing part of the conversation. And then later on, that negative vibration shows up as health problems or any other problems in your life. The one thing that I want you to understand is that it's not about the subject. It is about the habit of vibration. Because seemingly unrelated things happen, you start understanding that they're related, but they seem to be unrelated. For example, someone who is trying to get pregnant, couples who are trying to get pregnant and are not able to, it's not because there's anything physically wrong with them. It's because they're worried about something else. Something else in their life has them on a lower vibration. Or maybe they just grew up being that way. Maybe they're just used to being on a negative vibration. So now this subject starts corresponding to their vibration. And that's the most important thing to understand. All the subjects in your life will fall or will manifest based on the vibration where you spend most of your time. And that's why it's so important for us just to find ways to stay in the top half of the emotional scale than the bottom half of the emotional scale. All right, so that's what Abraham means when, in their last words closing this chapter, when they say, the details of it may play out differently, but the vibrational essence will always be an exact match. All right, folks, that's it for tonight. Thank you again for joining me. I am so happy that you took the time out to be here with me tonight, and I'm looking forward to the next chapter tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Take care, have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.